good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. I'm Ben Brackett here on Soccer Talk with my good buddy and co-host, Blake Sievers. Sieves, what's up?
Hey Ben, good to be back in the studio. Good to be doing another pod. Good to see you in person.
I know, it's nice. It's nice. The Zoom only does, so much justice to you.
Absolutely.
So, despite the fact that I guess we're breaking quarantine, we're kind of at that time of year where, soccer has been shut down again. There's not a lot of in-person activities to be done. So, this is another installment of our quarantine interview series where we're just sort of chatting with people in the soccer game, people from Iowa and beyond. So, we got your boy on, Justin Vorster today, huh?
Yeah, he's a good, he likes a good laugh, and he can definitely tell a story, can't he?
That, there's no question about. We're going to get to hear some really good stories today. We've got, I would say, a ranging discussion, but we get a really good picture of Vorster's kind of upbringing and how how soccer kind of shaped him, which I thought was cool. I didn't really, I've never sort of had this type of conversation with him in depth about where he grew up and how he grew up.
Yeah, and I think I think most people would agree in the soccer community here in Des Moines / Iowa that he would be one of the more knowledgeable minds, and he's done it at the youth level, obviously with club soccer, and then also he's guided teams in college with Drake and AIB, and then he worked with the Menace organization with their women's team a few years ago.
I'm trying to think. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody disparage his coaching. I think I've only heard positive reviews of that, so that speaks volumes, I would say, and his experience is pretty wide ranging. So let's maybe just get to it and start hearing some stories. All right, Justin Vorster, welcome to the pod. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Ben Siebers, thanks for having me. It's been an honor to be here, so I'm excited to move forward with the show.
I love it.
Yeah, we haven't seen you in a while.
I've been too busy, mate, coaching soccer.
Mm-hmm. You're looking fit, too. Quite fit.
Well, yeah, I spend about 2 hours in the gym every day, so I have time for that. But I have to go in at 6 a.m. because I've got busy days ahead of me,
Yeah, we'll maybe get into that a bit. So the first question, though, we always like to ask, which I'm sure you're aware of since you're a big-time listener.
Avid podcast listener, for sure.
Yeah, except not ours, is he?
No.
And he came empty-handed. He didn't bring anything. Maybe it's the limited edition AIB top he'll give that you can't get nowadays.
I'm in the process of moving, so all my stuff's either in the back of the car, at someone else's house. So it's been pretty busy. Otherwise, I would have brought you guys a gift. I'll have to phantom something up for you guys.
Well, we'll be checking the mailbox daily. So the question is, I know the answer, but is this the first time you've ever been on a pod?
No.
Oh, I didn't know that. Educate me.
He was on at least one of our...
he was on Corn Fed, wasn't
yeah.
he? Okay.
So you were on the Corn Fed. We just talked to those guys last week, Jack and John. Is there any other ones you've been on?
No, just that particular one. I've hosted a few podcasts through COVID, through the club, where we hosted a couple of footballers and coaches that I know, either from South Africa or actually one guy from overseas in Iceland, which was a lot of fun.
Wasn't that really a podcast, though? That's on...
It was more like a Zoom kind of meeting for the club, So, at least the audience of about 35 to 50 that were on it through the club, could see everybody, could see the host and could see the guest speaker as well. So
well, that's about 10 times more people that we get to listen. So
sounds like it.
Well done, but
captive audience.
Well, you might get more now that I'm on the show.
Well, so don't get going too quickly on us. You mentioned South Africa, and you mentioned who you're coaching with today, or mentioned that you're coaching today. Now you're checking out my notebook. You gonna take some notes?
That's all the secrets in there.
Yeah, watch out. This is all my real estate secrets. No, but so give us a little bit of your origin story. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, how you've come to Des Moines, Iowa, and what you're up to now.
Well, I'm quite the world traveler, to be honest with you. Sometimes known as the nomad. But I was born in India, Calcutta, India. My dad was there on tea training with Lions Club way back in the day, 1971. It was way before your time, guys, but when I was born. I was in India a year and a half. We moved to Kenya for about 6 months. My brother was born there. I think you guys have met my brother on his previous visits here.
Yep.
And then from there we moved to South Africa, 74 to 79. Then my dad got a job in Malawi, East Africa, and we were there from, well, I was there from 79 to 89. And then I moved back to South Africa, 89 to 2000, and then I came to the US. My first port of entry was Memphis. I ended up in Jackson, Mississippi coaching.
Let's slow down a little bit here.
I'm just kind of giving you where I was, and then
Yeah.
you guys can bounce
Yeah,
back.
So
and,
you would have been like 18, 19 when you moved back to South Africa.
Yes, correct. I was 18.
Gotcha. And so you spent your 20s in South Africa.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 29 when I moved to the States.
Okay. And
Yeah.
we've played soccer with you, so you clearly haven't played a whole lot. It doesn't look like. So when did you start playing?
Glossed over all the soccer stuff.
Me and my gimpy leg. No. Oh, is that what you wanted? A little soccer background, or
Little soccer
just a
background.
lifestyle background? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I started playing way back then in Malawi, actually.
I was going to say,
So I
which
was
country
about-
did you start in?
Yeah, I was about 8 years old at the time.
Nice.
Had a passion for the sport, loved it. We didn't really have a structure or any clubs or anything like that. Played for the high school, which I've got funny stories about that for sure.
Yeah, like when you watch YouTube or social media clips of African soccer, a lot of times you see a lot of like they're like dancing on the ball and it's like wild stuff like that, right? Is
Yeah.
that what you were dealing with?
Yep, having
Oh
to
my
deal with that. So, so we had this. I formed this team. I was the only white guy. Which, to be honest with you, it was a lot of fun because I learned a different culture about the game. I learned, not saying that I was super skillful. I was back in those days. A couple of nutmegs on Sebas. Not as good as you though.
The old
I
left
mean,
leg.
you're a classic player. But
Never looked at it.
yeah, I mean, I learned a lot of the African footballer, but I remember times we used to bet on games. So we'll go down with our 50 cents back in those days. So we'll put our little coins together. So I remember there was this Catholic church down the road from where we lived, and it was just a dirt field. That was it. And you had posts and a crossbar, so you couldn't even, no nets, nothing. We used to play on this. Well, I mean, one player would get the ball and win a take on the whole team.
Right.
And do the jigger-majiggers down the field, So I'll never forget, the ball would be bouncing all over the place. But I tell you what, from a skill point of view, and playing on horrible fields like that, dirt pitches, I mean, you learnt a lot, your first touch, your control, dribbling with the ball and so forth. Not much passing going on in those days, but there was a time where we had this massive fight on the field because the opponents thought they scored, but it just, because we had no nets. And it went, I remember this clearly, and the ball went just behind the upper 90 and they started celebrating. We were like, Achimwene. That's like, hey, guys, that's not a goal. And they were like screaming and shouting. So in the end, they got their 50 back. We got our 50. I mean, 50 cents in those days was massive, if you win. And off we went, on our own way. But, me and a lot of friends, we used to just meet down at the club. And we would start off, there'll be two of us, and then people would just arrive. So I remember once we were playing, it was started off as 3v3. And we made like little bricks as a field, but there was no boundaries, so you're all over the place, It ended up being 22 of us, 11v11 on the full field, until the manager came out, so looked out the window and checked us out. He comes out, goes, "You guys can't be doing this here," and kicked us all out. But I mean, it was just lots of memories and stuff like that. I mean, Malawi, I'll never change anything. You know, I mean, I love the upbringing there. It was a safe country. I was 12 years old when I walked 5 miles to the stadium. I wanted to go and see my team play, Barter Bullets. My parents were playing golf. They had no idea where I was. I think my brother was off playing tennis. And off I went on this huge trek. And I walked 5 miles. I get to the stadium. And it was a double header. So it was a 1 o'clock game and a 3 o'clock game. So we were 12 and 3. And there I was. I was sitting in the main stand with the fans. And I'll never forget when... you know the Barter Shoe Company, right? So it's huge in Africa. They sponsored the club who were known as they were called Barter Bullets, right? And we watching the game and we score. And I'll never forget this guy picking me up, a 12-year-old kid just throwing me in the air. And I mean, it was just, the opposing fans sat right next to you. So you had a fence and they were like right next to you, right? And there was just start throwing, like, we call them millie-cobs. I think you call them tassel here with the cobs, and just start throwing them over the fencing and stuff. That was their way of, like, fighting. So, yeah, it was crazy, actually. Yeah, so, I mean, like, I had memories of that, and then I'd walk 5 miles home, get home at, 9:30, walk in the door, my mum and dad look at me and go, "Where have you been?" "Oh, no," because we didn't have cell phones or anything. "No, I've been down at Kamuzu Stadium watching my team play," you know, and they just start laughing. But they knew it was safe back in those days, you know. I mean, I was a 15-year-old playing on a Division 3 team, no structured training sessions. We get down to training and you would just play, you know. 11v11 or 7v7, whatever it is. There was no pattern play, there was nothing, no rondos or whatever. That's just how you learn, you know. My first experience, I'll just give you that, you know, and then we can move on. But my first experience, I was 15. The oldest guy on the team was about 35. I was just this 15-year-old kid. And their little ground was like in a forest. It was like, I mean, if you're walking, you walk miles, you know. So we get in their little team bus, which really wasn't a team bus. It looked like a bakery delivery van with no vents, and you just shoved in the back, right?
Okay. Sounds like a prison trolley or something like that.
It felt like it. I've never been in one though. Those ones don't have vents. No, joking. All right. So, you know, we get to the ground, and so again, I was like the only white guy playing at the time. I didn't think much about it anyway. I didn't really care, and neither did the Africans. I mean, it was a great integration and great chemistry and stuff. And game starts, and I'm on the bench. It's 1-1. Place is packed.
When you say packed, 5,000?
5,000. Yeah, it was a Division 3 game, but they said they normally get 500 at a game around. But they hear there's this 15-year-old white boy coming into play, you know, stuff like that. So I'm sitting on the bench, and the coach turned around to me, and he goes, "Hey, Justin, warm up." They used to call me Jar, or, you know, it's just, yeah, short nicknames, which kind of sounds weird, right? So we're down on the field, but there was the whole, prior to the game, the witch doctor stuff, and, you know, that was a little bit crazy though. You know, there was this whole talk about the opponents had put medicine on the fields, and there was this big witchcraft thing, and we had to get there early, and I was given a lump of salt, and I always said to the one guy, I'm like, "What is this for?" And he goes, "Well, if you see their players, you've got to throw it at them, because this cancels any kind of witchcraft." I'm like, "All right, well, we did that before the game. They dropped us off, and we just tossed them salt." And they were running away because they obviously didn't want to get hit. You know, it was just, I don't know, it's a psychological thing. But then after that, but then after that, I always carry, for some reason as a kid, I always carried salt with me because we won the game, and I thought, oh, shit, this works, you know. But some mental psychology stuff, you know. So
Your time.
no. So the game's on the go. It's 1-1. Coach tells me to warm up. Start warming up, and you just look across and you just get chills. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. 5,000 of them are jumping up, going mental, and like, oh, okay. In my head, I'm going, I better perform, because I tell you what, if I have a dodgy first touch, they'll be booing me in 2 seconds. You know, get them off again. You know.
What position did you play?
I was, funnily enough, I was playing on the left because I did have a bit of speed back then, Mr. Brackett.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
You must have been like a left winger.
Yeah, I was only a lefty, you know. Only got my right legs for walking on. Yeah, and the game gets going, and we get a free kick just outside the box, and one of the players says, "Justin, take it. Use your left foot. Blah blah blah. He says, do it like you do, like bend it round with the outside of your left foot." I'm like, all right.
Oh, so this is something that's been going on for a long time, the outside of the left foot.
It's been stemming up inside me. I've been dying to tell you guys this story. So I line it up and I smash this ball into the bottom corner, and the place goes mental. These fans are just running. I turn around to run towards the fans because I'm so pumped up now. I mean, I couldn't even get there. They were already on the field. They'd invaded the field, trying to grab my wristbands and trying to take crap off me. I'm like, okay, so we end up winning the game 3-1. It was just I mean, when I look back at different games where I've played or coached, I mean, that one always sticks in my mind because it was one of my first real competitive games. We didn't have youth teams like you have today. I mean, it was just, that was it. Open age groups, go play. And that was just life back then. I mean, it was great. You become tough. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if I'm 15 training with a 22-year-old, you're going to get tough. Because if they're knocking you around, you've got to knock them around, you know? So.
During this time, is this when you learned the Zulu warrior dance?
Well,
or was that in South Africa?
Yeah, that's South Africa.
Okay.
You know, yeah, Malawi's a little different. They Chichewa, that's what they speak. Same as.
How many languages do you speak?
Not really, to be honest with you. When I was in Malawi, I knew a bit of Chichewa. You had to.
Sure.
Because you had to know if someone was swearing at you on the field. You just learn the main pieces.
Just enough.
Just enough to get you by.
Like playing on Sunday League. Like I know what tranquilo means and all the other things. Right.
Yeah. I might have known a little more. It was the same in South Africa with the Zulu and Xhosa. You pick it up, but I mean, it doesn't. Since I've been here, I just remember a few words here and there, but not that much. And then obviously, I didn't speak Afrikaans. Just because I didn't need to. Everybody spoke English. But
Sure.
playing football in South Africa, you had to learn, a little bit of the language. I think it's important that the African footballers knew English, so it was important that you know part of their language as well, so you can reciprocate.
Sure.
Which I think is very important.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So then what, you go to South Africa
Yeah.
at 20-ish, 18, 20.
Yeah, I was 18 years old. Yep.
Keep playing?
Yeah, I was playing.
Getting paid?
Not at that time.
Okay.
I joined. I was working in a sports store. Okay. I started off as just a sales representative. I kept that job for like 6 years. Worked my way up to a manager of a store. I joined the club. 18. It was just the local club, and basically here's how it operated back then. So it was, moving from Malawi to South Africa. So you go from what Malawi was like and everything was mixed, and moving back to South Africa. I was didn't really keep
It's
up with.
segregated at that
Yeah, I was segregated at the time. However, I joined this club, and then I was a minority player, and we had 3 African footballers in the team at the time. Obviously, I latch on to the African footballers because that's what I was used to. So, like conversation pieces, I'll go up to them and talk to them, and we'll talk about the Malawian pros that were playing in South Africa at the time, who I'm still currently friends with one of them, Ernest Mtawali. He actually played at a very, very high level. I think he had a stint in Europe as well. So I played for this club. I started on, I was just thrown into the third team. And then I remember it was very political in those days. I remember sitting down with the third team coach manager and the second team manager. And he was trying to say, hey, listen, you need to get Justin onto the second team. And he was like, well, who do I move? And he didn't really want to give it a try, So I remember once we were just training, how you've got interprovincial. So here you've got, I guess, Iowa, Illinois, and so forth. So over there we had Natal, Western Province, Eastern Province, South African Defence.
Like the regional.
Yeah, and you had like the South African Defence Force, because back then you still had military service. So really they were a good team, because every single top player or high school kid had to go into the army. So they would form a team out of who was there. So this was like the under-20s, and me and my buddy, he was the captain of the team, we were told, so the manager arrives, first team manager arrives, he goes, hey, Greg, Justin, I forgot to tell you guys, but they've got trials down in Durban, so it was a 20-minute drive from where we were. So you got trials down in Durban, you better get going because you're about 20 minutes late already. Figure right. So me and Greg get in the car, we race down there. 40 minutes into the trial, we arrive. The coaches go, they look at everyone's out there and they're playing. Coaches look at us and go, well, they didn't know me from a bar of soap, because I'd really just been in the country 8 months in that area. But they knew Greg, so asking what position you play, and I just said central midfield, put me in there. So, yeah, they did. And and one or two or maybe four no-look passes, one touch.
A couple of tackles.
Yeah, I was a playmaker back in the day, Ben, one or two flying tackles.
Thursday morning flying tackles.
And then afterwards, and this is the best part about it, okay? Can you imagine this happening today? Afterwards, the two coaches up there, clipboards, paper, players sitting down in front. All right, these players stay, the rest can leave. And they went through the list. My name was on there. Top 5, by the way, Ben. Top 5 Sebas, top 5. Can you believe that? All right.
They got the numbers mixed up on the back of the shirts, didn't they?
They went from worst to best.
Well, I tell you what, I was like, are you guys sure? But
You're like center midfield?
hey, there were some other quality players there as well. So, yeah, and the guys that were told to leave, obviously there was disappointment, but I think when you look at it from a mentality point of view, it makes you mentally strong. It's right, okay, well, I haven't made it. I've been told in front of a whole group, I've got to get better, So, I remember
There were no kids that went up to the coach and said, oh, coach, can you tell me what?
No parents either.
Right, it's just...
There were some pretty cheesed off parents or kids or whatever, but that's reality,
Life, isn't it?
They want to pick the best 16 or 18 players. So we end up going to Cape Town for the interprovincials. I don't know, you might have heard of Sean Dundee. He was on that team. He was a younger player, 16. He ended up having a great career in the Bundesliga. Played for Karlsruhe, played for Leverkusen. But the main club he played for was Eintracht Frankfurt. There was one, but the main club he played for was SC Karlsruhe. Played at Liverpool. You've probably never seen him play because Roy Evans got fired and Julia came in and he never saw the field. They do, if you look up on the internet, they do say that the top 10 worst signings in the UK, he's one of them. But he was paid his signing fee was £2 million, and he was paid 10 grand a week. So he ended up going back. But he was one of the kids on the team. He was 2 years younger than me. Great guy. I mean, we had some great players. There was quite a few of them that we played against that ended up having pretty decent careers in South Africa. But we ended up coming second in that tournament. Should have won it, but didn't. We did have a quality team. We lost to Western Province, out of Cape Town. But you know, and then that was interprovincial stuff. I then moved clubs. I went to a club in Durban, which was one of the top amateur clubs. And I'll tell you, this is how it works there. So back then, the amateur season was in the winter, and the professional season was in the summer. So there was an overlap, okay? As soon as the professional season was done, the professional players would come into the amateur league. You could do it, right? There was no, once that 1 year contract was done, that's it. And all those pros, back then, didn't make enough money to make ends meet. They had jobs.
Sure.
So they all worked as probably sales reps, which gave them a little more flexibility. And they would all come into the amateur leagues, and they'll get paid by the amateur clubs and that. So when you look at the competitiveness of the league back then, it was fantastic. I mean, the quality was unbelievable. There was a bite in the game. It was just, I mean, you had to watch your shoulder. I mean, back then you could come flying in from behind.
That's where he's learned it.
Yeah,
on the
for sure.
Thursday mornings.
You know, so that was one of the best parts about playing there.
And is this the 80s or early 90s at this point?
Early 90s.
Early 90s. I was going to say, you watch just like old clips of 90s soccer anywhere, and it's like, I mean, the tackles are
Yeah.
like,
Well,
you could never get away with it anymore.
I think one of the latest ones I saw was from the 70s, Leeds United versus Chelsea. I couldn't believe it. You know, when I watch that and I think back and go, wow, you know, there were tackles flying in like that, you know, back in the day. So, yeah, I mean, so that was basically the league, and I thought, you know, here's going to be my time. Let me give it a try. My next door neighbor was playing for a professional club, and I said to him, I said, hey, Gav, what do you think? And he goes, yeah, come, I'll speak to the coach. The coach happened to be Mark Tovey, who played for Kaiser Chiefs. He was now coaching. He worked for Puma. He worked for Puma Clothing. He worked for, again, you know, we talk about guys that work representing different footwear or clothing lines and so forth. So I go down there, pre-season, playing a couple of pre-season games, loving it, really, really enjoying it. I thought, all right, this is going to be it. You know, like you're getting all pumped up, and you could tell things are going well. And then I had a bad car accident. And that's where I smashed up my leg. I was out for a month, and after that, I decided, well, I'm just going to go back and carry on playing in the amateur league. And just doing that until 29. I was 29 years old, and I had tendonitis, arthritis hadn't kicked in yet in the right ankle. But
still a young man at that point.
Oh, yeah, you know that. And young and thriving. So, yeah, so I decided that was it, you know, and I just, you know, obviously still stayed involved in the game. Just from a little bit of a coaching capacity, and that was it. But not coaching at like I was just doing odds here and there, you know, working out. And then I got a call from my buddy who I played with in South Africa, who was here in the States. He went to Tiffin University, and I'll never forget the call. I was sitting on the couch at home, and he says, "Would you fancy coming out here and coaching?" I said, "Well, can you sort out all the legality point of things for me so I don't just arrive there and then I'm kicked out again?" So got that sorted out, and I ended up in Jackson, Mississippi. And I was there 4 years, and the great Aussie White
Plucked you out of obscurity.
I met him on my coaching education, and yeah, he brought me out here? Well, I just saw an opening at Ankeny Soccer Club at the time, and I knew that's where he worked, and I emailed him and left him a voicemail. It took him 2 weeks to get back to me, but
You're
Not keeping
bitter
track.
still.
Yeah.
is that normal today still? Yeah,
This is 2004.
2004. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, he had been overseas on one of his European trips, and so yeah, I came out for an interview, and that was it. You know, just stayed here, and you know, got connected with you guys. I mean, you guys were. Trying to think now, you were out of college now.
Blake would have been just a.
yeah, 2004ish. I would have been in college.
You're still in college,
I would
yeah.
have been away.
In college, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, geez, it's amazing how,
I
when
know.
we look back at this.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I mean, so ultimately, then, you know, like by the time we were coaching here locally and stuff, that would have been like 2008ish, 2009. So you would have been sort of like a mainstay at that point, or you know, like
Well-
you were a known commodity.
Well, I tell you what, when you talk about celebrities and known commodities, you know, I had the opportunity to meet the residential professional coach. Do you guys know Matt Nickel, by the way?
Of course.
I'm just joking, man. I know you do. Yeah, but he was the residential pro before he went off to DC United on one of his ventures. You know, so and Adam Zena was coaching there. Yeah, Big Adam.
Dude, you guys had quite the eclectic crew way back in the original
That was up
18
in
soccer
That's
club days.
Say Hag, of course. You know. Yep. So yeah, it's we're quite the team, but you know, obviously met some great guys, and obviously Matt Sahag, who's just I've stayed in contact with Matt. You guys, obviously, but you know Matt throughout the years, and you know Adam Zena now and again if I see him, but he's a busy man nowadays as well.
You know this.
The big defense attorney. Yeah, but you know met some great people, and it's just Sean Holmes, obviously.
So then you coached a little bit at Drake. You coached at AIB.
Yes.
Menace, I mean, yeah, so I don't know if you've noticed, but there's our plug for the YouTube channel, Ben. We put up the Drake top for you since you've had a little stint there.
I love it. Yeah.
Menace top since you've.
I didn't have a stint at Atlanta.
That's just our coolest jersey.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, so I mean.
So talk about that because you coached in the college game. You were
Yeah.
AIB as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting too because I mean, you're known as one of like the best trainers, and from somebody who like you know basically said you were brought up in the game where you know you weren't ever really coached.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like, and now you've educated yourself a lot through coach education, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But just interesting how you went from kind of going well, I'm just gonna play and eventually you've turned that into a profession. I'm just curious how that talk about that a little bit.
You know when I first went on my first training session actually in the States was quite kind of a nightmare, but it was
Everybody remembers their first time run the show.
Yeah, you know you come in. I was 29 years old. Okay, at a U11 boys team. And you trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do with these guys? And you trying to do a training session that you did when you were playing.
And that's what I was going to say is my coaching style definitely came from growing
Yeah.
up and like who I played for and the sessions that I participated in. So I'm just curious when you're saying like I didn't really participate in structured sessions.
We
play.
exactly we all start somewhere. You know, going back to I was coached by some great coaches in South Africa. You know, and back then they did have structured training sessions, but scientifically are not what they are today as the game evolves. But in our heads, back then as players, this is a great session. We love this. You know, this is different to what I've been used to.
Sure.
You know, but as you move on, you see the changes. And now, obviously today, when you view training sessions in the professional world, you see huge differences, you know. But I had this 11-year-old team, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do what I was doing when I was a player. Well, it didn't work, did it? So, you know, at the end of the day, you have to start somewhere, and we all go through it. Nobody can say, hey, I walked in and had the best training session. My first training session was the best ever. Well, maybe Seba's, but you know, yeah. I mean, it was just you all have to start somewhere. You were thrown in the deep end. You've been thrown in the deep end. I was. You know, here's your team. Go for it. This is what it is. Then I was like, okay. I had the chance in Mississippi. We're hosting the C license, so I was like, all right. The club put me through this. Well, you know, when I first went on it, it was like the C license. You had a tactical session back then, and then you had a technical session, but it was the methodology. Which
Probably
was,
the same C license that we took, honestly.
yeah. And the methodology, I was looking at this book and these lectures and you're going, what is this all about? But this is your first opportunity, you know, in your coaching license. I'm like, okay. You literally, you go, this is not easy, you know. In your head, you go, wow, this is difficult. But you get through it. So at the end of the day, I'm glad I did it because you learn different methods and styles and philosophies and so forth, which U.S. soccer have changed about 100 times, you know.
We can all agree on that.
Yeah, because they want to follow. Let's follow Spain, let's follow Germany, let's follow Belgium, instead of coming up with their own.
It's flavor of the day, right?
Flavor of the day, Flavor Flav. So, yeah, so I did my C license, which I'm glad I did. Then a year later I went on the B license, and that's actually where I met Ozzy, of all places, at the Terribles Hotel in Las Vegas.
We just had another story about that's 2 weeks in a row now with the Aussie in Vegas story.
So, yeah, that was, again, 9 days, where today it's, you go for, you know, a year.
Right.
So it's a lot different. I would like to, you know, try the UEFA licenses at some stage. And, yeah, so I did that 9 days, and then a year later, I went on the A license. Or it was a year and a half, actually. I went on the A license in Tampa. A lot of pressure put on you by the instructors. But yeah, I mean, I got through that eventually. You know, back then it was like you could have the best week ever, and all the pressure's put on you in the final. The other coach will get a topic that will be against your topic, basically. And you've got one chance to do your stoppage, coaching point, and get out. If you don't get it right, you fail. So the whole 9 days is a waste of time, really. There's no chance. If you've had a good week, but you fail, you have a bad day, final, you're done. So there's a lot of pressure, and you know, thankfully, I got through that. I was...
So did you pass on your first time?
Yeah,
So
I was really nervous.
There's a lot of people that we hear about who, you know, maybe haven't passed on their first time, and it's not. I mean, when you talk
And they're
about
too
it like
scared
that,
to go back. You know.
What was do you remember your topic or your stoppage?
It was it was.
Because there's always some, like, everyone's had some
obscure,
weird topics. Right?
So the guy I was up against was coaching the offside trap, which I don't even think is a topic anymore. You know, coaching the offside. Mine was coaching the outside. Back then was called coaching the outside back to get forward. So
what is it called now?
Overlapping.
That's
Overlapping.
Some fancy word.
Yeah, it's probably the Maverick or something like that. So
coaching the number 3 to
so it was
do this. Or
coaching the number 2 or the 3 to get
overlap the 7 and the 11.
to get forward. So
stay out of the way of the 8 and the 6 and the
And get to zone 14. Yeah.
So, yeah, one in the half space, one in the wide space.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I had to. Well, we didn't back then. There was no half space, wide space, central area, and so forth. You know, thanks to Pep and the guys who invented that. So that's pretty awesome.
Thanks for making it more complicated for us.
Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, it was basically my stoppage was on the right-hand side, so the right back was getting forward. There was an opportunity. I was like, bam, this is it. You know, and I still had to coach I played in it was a 4-4-2 back then. So the...
I love a 4-4-2.
I know you do.
I do.
Bang it forward and get after it, Ben.
That's right.
So the 7, as they were in the midfield 4, was higher up the field, pressed up, and I had to coach the 7 to come inside to bring the opponent's left back inside, creating the space for the right back to get forward. But you know, back then it was crazy because the left back, well, the right back wasn't already in a position to go. It was like rather deeper, okay? Not like now where they are higher up the field. You know, sometimes there's 4 to 5 players on the line. So I got the 7 or the right midfielder to come in, and then I asked the right back to get higher up the field, which didn't really help me out because he technically and physically just wasn't capable, and I had to do it like 3 or 4 times so that he got it right. You know, Ben, if it was you, I don't know about Siebes.
Depends on what side of the field.
Siebes would have come off the shin and hit the crossbar. You probably would have got there first touch, bang, top corner. I could have walked off the field. You know? Thank you. Thanks, coach. I'm good to go. But
we've never been right back though. I'd have been on the left side.
I still would have put you on that side. But again, you know, learning points. Pick your 11 players. So when you're on the course, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Again, it's a learning point. We all go there. Pick your 11 players. Pick your right back, left back, who are good players. Well, obviously I didn't on the right, did I? I mean, you just play right. You know, just setting up the team. I was getting nervous. I thought my heart was going to pound out of my chest. I looked at him. Ozzy was on my team actually. He was the playmaker. He was like a sprinkler.
He definitely wouldn't be on the left back.
He was like a sprinkler. He's just spraying it with his right and left foot. Trust me, both. So I had Ozzy play the ball in. I turned around to Ozzy. I'm like, is this guy going to get there? Maybe just I'll push him a little bit higher up and just play it into his feet, which he did. And the coach goes, all right, no problem. Well, the other guy I was coaching against was. He's actually a French guy, very good player. He was actually a really good player. He gets in there on his coaching point, and he coached something totally different. And, you know, he had a great week, but he failed because he didn't coach the offside, you know. So, and he came off, and he even came up next to me and goes, I messed up there. And I went, I hate to say it, but you did. Which kind of, I mean, I was honest. But yeah, I mean, it's...
What a long answer to just a yes or no question of, do you remember your point?
I know. I like to talk about it, you know. But yeah, then I had a stint at Drake, thanks to Sean Holmes. Gave me the opportunity.
You were there for the Elite 8 round, weren't you?
Yeah, I just needed 1 year there, didn't I?
Yeah.
So let's...
on my resume, and off I went.
Here's the talking point. So
I still have my ring,
Of course.
but I've never worn it. I remember Joe Berger was wearing his ring out after they won it. Like as soon as they got it, he was out at dinner and lunches with his big ring on. Yeah.
So so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Coaching staff: Sean Holmes, Joe Berger, Justin Vorster,
Casey Mann, goalkeeper coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 2008, I believe, right?
2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Drake team kind of makes a Cinderella run.
I was actually looking at the picture the other day.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm going with this. You guys get to the Elite 8.
Yep.
Beat,
Yep.
Boston College,
We
Ohio
beat-
State.
Well, we beat Western Illinois here first. Then we beat Ohio State.
Of course.
Don't forget that.
The Buckeyes.
The Buckeyes. Fantastic game in overtime, 1-0. Jordan Cadlick I think it was Jordan and Goy, had that game of his life. Unbelievable. Beat them 1-0. Then we went on to Boston College. What a game. We were 2-0 down.
Did you play at Boston?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
How beautiful is their stadium?
Unbelievable, but it's a carpet pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to play on. We went 2-0 down very quickly. And I looked at Sean and I was like, is this the one, you know? But ended up winning that game 6-4.
I do remember
Damn.
that.
You know, what a day, what a night. And we fly back and, you know, it was just the whole hype, and you have the media at the airport, and, you know, this stuff's never happened. Well, it did happen when the Menace won the national championship. I think, Siebes, were you a part of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had the media, and there's this whole hype. It was awesome, you know. And then we went to North Carolina. What a fantastic! What was awesome about this is we went to these places and we get to tour the facilities and you know North Carolina. What a
UNC's awesome.
what a fantastic facility. We went to Duke. We just drove in there and just off we went and walked around. I mean, it was just fantastic. We lost that Elite Eight 2-1, but you know what a run we had. It was fantastic, and like I said to you, with all the packing I've been doing, I was going through some boxes, and I still kept, you know, obviously, you know, your identification badges and stuff like that. So I kept all of that, newspaper clippings, but what I did keep was all my scouting notes on the opposition. Yeah, so I still have all of that, and I was reading through it. You know, you think about how you scouted back then to now, and it was all through the internet or looking them up and you know what are they about, and you're taking notes because you're not watching them live, you know.
Yeah, you're calling another coach to see what they think, or
Yeah. I mean, that's you know, we couldn't get on a plane and fly out to watch them play, you know, because you're all playing on the same day, you know.
So the most recent, it's kind of taken Twitter by storm, I would say. So that was just the anniversary of that team winning the Missouri Valley title, and one of the questions, just so I don't get it wrong, was so a bunch of Iowa guys on that team. You know, you had Mike Thaden, Nick Foster, Mike
Yep.
Noonan, you said Cadlick, Charlie Schwartz, Hunter Kennedy. I may miss one or two, but I mean,
Say that, I feel like there are a
a
couple
bunch of Iowa boys. So the question was posed, and we're going to ask you the question, and just so everybody knows, a lot of our guests like to know what we're talking about, right, Ben?
Yeah.
And what is our, what do we always say?
soccer.
Yeah, like we don't give questions ahead of time. So
No, that's true.
So, but here's your on the spot.
But why would you give questions ahead of time? You know,
Some people are
it's
uncomfortable.
Talk Sport Radio here.
That's right.
So the question is, what happened to all the Iowa players that used to turn into great college players? Meaning, back in the day, and we've talked about it, we feel Iowa used to produce, at least on the boys' side, we'll make it specific, a lot of good players.
Yep.
One, do you think the state is producing as many, specifically on the boys' side? And if you say yes, I would have an interesting comeback for you. And if you say no, why?
I think a lot of players are getting overlooked, honestly. I think that, I mean, when you look at it, okay, when I say overlooked, you have a look if you look up and see how many Iowa players are at Grandview, maybe, okay? How many Iowa players are playing at Luther, Wartburg, Simpson? I'm trying to remember, you know, when I look at it, Leroy Nguzuzi, the Kenyan lad from Cedar Rapids, who I coached in ODP. He ended up at Sporting KC. I'm trying to recall him and Ryan were the ones that played at Drake. I don't know how long Ryan lasted. I coached him at West Des Moines. He ended up being a right back for them.
Was that Ryan Johnston?
Ryan Johnston.
There you go, okay.
To be honest with you, I didn't really follow the career in college, so I don't know how many years he was there. I think he should be graduated by
I
now.
think Ryan played all 4 years,
He did.
but I don't know that he wasn't like a major contributor.
But I think that, to be honest with you, I think a lot of players are overlooked, not looked at, to be honest with you. You know, when we look at it like this, who is the assistant coach at Drake right now?
Kyle Smith.
Kyle Smith. Yeah. Okay, so I remember Kyle when he first came here. I worked with him at West Des Moines. So, you know, I've tried to reach out to him before, but I think they just don't recruit as much around here. It's either overseas or it's out of state, to be honest with you, or it's in the developmental academies. But, you know, my thing is, what is something going on with the development of the players in Iowa at this point, that they are not up to the quality of Drake University maybe at D1 level, or is it what they studying academically? Is it not for them? But we all know Drake is a high level school. But I'm trying to think, there's a couple of players that went to Luther that actually played at possibly Shattuck. You know, I'm trying. There's a
You're
couple.
thinking Loris, like Alex Herrera.
Yeah,
and Mark
Alex
Robert.
Herrera, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so in 2009 and 2010 and 2008, were those types of players being recruited by Drake University or, you know, top school, you know,
Sure.
possibly? I think Sean might have given them a chance,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
I think the other thing that's interesting too is like right now, if you're, let's say you're 16, 17, 18, you play on one of these local teams, you're not going to any like big showcases or, you know, you're going down to Kansas City, and then you've got your sort of
weekend.
yeah, you've got your sort of standard fall season that doesn't necessarily afford you the ability to play in front of other coaches. Like for us, every year we were always like there was something that we were working towards. It was like we're going to go to San Diego and we're going to go to some big tournament here. We're going to win states. We can go to regionals, and then for 6 months, you're like contacting coaches like I'm going to be at regionals and come watch me play.
Yeah, you know how the landscape has changed with the MLS academies. It's now your top D1 schools. That's where they want to go. We're going to the academies, and that's where we're going to pull players from. But there are still diamonds in the rough out there that play in club soccer that can't afford. You know, maybe these kids haven't been seen or referred to an academy. And they get overlooked. And like you said, Ben, you know, back then you were going to San Diego, you're going to all these showcases. When was the last time you heard of a club or a team here in Iowa that's traveled that far to a showcase? Or
I think like maybe the Ankeny girls that they won a bunch, right? Because they were getting to go travel.
so now we're talking the girl side.
Yeah.
Sure.
You
No,
know,
I understand.
yeah.
I'm just trying to, they just don't.
Yeah, they don't.
That's the
Even
answer.
like even ODP has sort of stopped the travel thing because I remember, you know, like in those late '90s teams like with Steenhoek and
Oh, there's another name I haven't heard. Yeah, Steve.
yeah, but like those were like the
yeah.
'94 boys, I think, ish, '94 to '96 age, and you know like they won you know like ODP regionals, went to nationals, and got to do some traveling and stuff. I think that's kind of stuff that really makes a big difference for a player. It's just experience, right? Like you talk about all the different playing experiences you had. I mean, those are, even though they were maybe weird experiences sometimes, or like maybe not great experiences, it made you uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and you were forced to kind of get through it and
Sure.
develop. I don't know how many kids are being made to feel uncomfortable these days.
Or out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
You know.
It's an interesting question because the guy that asked that is he spent time in Cedar Rapids. I don't know if he's a Cedar Rapids native.
Is. Yep.
Okay. But he's the Yale men's coach. So an Iowan.
I can't recall where he played though locally there, and
Yes, he knows Iowa though, and he knows like what it used to be. Yeah, and it's like it's just disappointing on the boys' side. To me, I don't.
Sure. He's probably not finding in the Alex Munns though, is he?
No. I'll tell you something. There's some. When I look at it, I know the teams that Jack Andrews and John Schroeder that they coach at VSA have got some quality players in them. You know, just a story I heard. I think it's CJ plays on the 0203 boys.
The big boy.
Yeah,
right?
the blonde haired kid. Yeah. So he plays on the 0203 team in Walkie High School. And I heard they were down in St. Louis playing in an MPL game. Now, the SLU coach just happened to be there, maybe watching a player from the St. Louis team that's asked him to come out. Well, he saw this kid. He walked up to the coach, I think it was John Schroeder or maybe Chris McGill at the time, and said, I need that kid's details right now. So when you're talking, that was in the National Premier League. So now you're looking at it where the coach has gone to watch someone else and sees this kid and goes,
That was how I got recruited.
yeah.
They
Really? Yeah.
were going to watch Jeff play, and I just happened to be playing against him and getting beat on. But
Well,
Right, but
my question
that's-
was, how come the coach doesn't have the info already? You're going to St. Louis. There's what, 4 schools on the boys' side between Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA.
Well, that's a communication piece.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
that to
so what it is here, Steve, is the players need to take responsibility at the end of the day. So we can't spoon feed everyone, okay? You have to do your work. You have to do your work, due diligence, and as far as getting your information out there to promote yourself. The coaches do so much, but it's taking on responsibility, which makes you two the men you are today, right? Okay, taking on the responsibility and being accountable. So,
did you have coaches calling? Because I was just trying to think if like you had coaches calling for you back when you were like, did somebody call up to Oakland and say, hey, like I remember Aziz called Brett. What was Brett Simons at Stanford? Because he knew him from
He
Creighton.
was at Creighton and then he was at Stanford.
And called him
Brett
was
Simons,
like,
yeah.
And you know, it was one of those like where probably what I needed to do was play in front of that guy, not get the endorsement from my high school coach. So I'm just, you know, I'm more, your point of it, it requires some, you know, some drive from your players.
Yeah, it's, and I think it's, you know, nowadays it's, yeah.
Maybe it's the coach saying, hey boys, we're going to St. Louis.
Right.
There's 6 schools here.
Yeah, get it out there.
If you need any help, let me know.
But some of these kids today just don't do it. They
Which
don't.
is why, I mean, that's ultimately why, like, we talked to Dan Rothert and Steve Sawyer, there's people and businesses now out there that try to help the kids.
They make money off it.
And try to help the kids go through the process and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Clubs are now making money off college recruitment. Like if you want the extra, you want the videos, you want this, you pay for it. You know, where it's easier just to do it like that. Well, let's pay someone else for it. Or these college recruitment companies. You know, somebody sees a niche out there and it's like, I can make some money off this, because people just don't do it. You know, you know, obviously it's like players today. They have big time agents to take care of them. You know, so it's.
So is this just the difference in like time, or just like sort of the same way you hear people, you know, concerned about the youth of today or whatever, just in general? Like,
we're in a different era now. You know, so it's a different era as far as
cell phones.
Cell phones, social media. It's enabled is another word that I can use.
I was talking to somebody the other day just about how like everybody, not even just every kid, but everybody has like sweet new kicks, a cell phone, and like a fresh haircut, right? Like that's like a pretty normal.
I'm going for my fresh haircut.
so even those headphones have ruined the hair.
I'm a little disappointed.
But that's not something that was a big deal in the 90s, was it? I mean, or even in the early 2000s, like it wasn't.
No, it wasn't a big deal. We just had the old Puma, John Masona Kings back then, you know.
Puma.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean that.
Glacia.
Yeah, Puma, Adidas, Lotto was huge.
Oh, wow.
Kappa.
Who?
Kappa?
Oh, Kappa was massive. Yeah,
Theodora,
we had the Kappa
Helmy.
kits and everything. God, I wish I could have pulled out some pictures. You'll never find any old YouTube videos.
Well, I say Fit Vorster may still fit in some of those tracksuits.
Yeah. True.
So, you know, we've talked a little bit about what you think about soccer today. Where does it go from here? So now I know, so you're now coaching for FC United.
VSA, so VSA FC United, the high school girls. I've got a U11 girls age group as well. Spent a lot of time, obviously, in the fall with the high school girls team, the 02, 03s, and 04s. It worked really well, bringing the two clubs working together. I'll travel to Cedar Rapids Monday, Tuesday, train the girls up there, and then I'll train our local girls down here in Des Moines on a Thursday. So, I mean, it worked out really well. Great group of girls, loved working with them, and we're hoping to keep this collaboration going moving forward. Obviously, the travel took a lot out of me, but it's only going to be for the fall season. So, yeah.
So I guess my last one was youth soccer in Iowa. Is it going? And you're obviously biased because I think maybe you're in it. But is it trending in the right direction, or is there something you wish, just maybe something small you could change? Which we should have asked. I mean, we should ask everybody. I'm just curious more than anything.
Is it going in the right direction? I mean, I think when you look at, without being biased or anything, but when you look at all the clubs, think most of them are trying to do their due diligence to develop players. You know, when I look at, I'll give an example at FC United on their 05 boys team. I mean, they've got some very good players. In fact, Matthew Hudson, I referred down to Kansas City. Now, they'll take anyone. You don't have to play for Sporting Iowa or, you know, or an affiliate in order to go to an MLS club. They will take anyone if you're good enough and to be a part of their development. And this kid, Matthew Hudson, is a young 05. I referred him down there to McLeod, who used to play at Drake University.
Darren McLeod, right?
Darren McLeod. He is the academy.
Looks like McLeod.
Yeah,
right?
he is the academy goalkeeper coach. So,
Cool.
you know, Matthew goes down there and they love him. He's going into residency there in April. I've so far referred another player from that same team. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how tall you are. He's very short, but his awareness of the game is fantastic, and it's a natural, okay? And I think it's identifying that natural ability, okay, and how can you develop that natural ability? You know they've got it, but how can you develop it, I think is the key. And it's through the facets of the game, but also, you know, off the field, the mentality. You know, you could be a very good player, but you don't have the mentality. You know,
Sure.
you just don't want to go.
Does it concern you that we have to send our best players away? Especially at such a young age. I mean, so what, he's an 05, so he's 15.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's an opportunity. Yeah,
I think it's great for him. I'm just saying, does it concern you? Like,
no, because competition-wise, where that individual, are they going to get collectively the competition playing where they are? Okay, playing the same old State Cup or the tournaments or whatever, and are they going to progress? Now, if they're going to be challenged somewhere else, like at Sporting KC or Minnesota or wherever, they have an opportunity to get better. Okay, it's also going to test their mental strength, and I think that's key. You know, back when you guys were playing, it wasn't around, so all the best players were still here.
Right.
You see, and I think that, and again, we talk about the environment and how the market's changed till today. I mean, it's totally different, you know, compared to when you guys were playing or when I was playing. You know, I still talk about, I wish I had the science that they have today back then. You know, then I wouldn't have been playing with injuries.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we all do. I think we have a lot more educated coaches, younger coaches. I know at VSA we've got some really young coaches, and you know, obviously we've got some legends like Matty Smith.
yeah.
Sievers, you've been coached by Matty, haven't you?
I have. He's a former house guest of the Sievers family back in the day.
I was just going to say, did he stay at the bed and breakfast?
He
yeah.
overextended his stay by quite a bit of time, actually. It was one of those, I'll come for the summer,
Well,
and a year later he's still...
Well, at least you got to start every game. Yeah. But I just think as coaches, if we can just continue to develop and evolve and study the game and really focus on, you know, developing those young players. Obviously, we don't want our best players to leave, but I think if it's in the best interest, you know, you think about kids that I coached at Ankeny, Brandon Fricky, Will Witherspoon, who in fact just won the USL League One. His
Fricky
captain,
did. Fricky,
Brandon
right?
Fricky,
Defender of the year.
yeah.
Yeah, like, which is a big
You
time.
know, so played at the Menace, and he's really played overseas for a bit in Division 3 in Sweden, I believe. But he, you know, he's really put forth and he's worked hard at his game. And look at him now; he's just won the USL League One. He's the captain, defender of the year. So I think that's fantastic. And I'm just glad I had the opportunity to coach him. Will Witherspoon's another one, and Logan Bigler. Those were the three players that we sent down to Kansas City to play for the Wizards at that time. You know. And did I get some heck from it, from the parent group on the team? Yeah, I did. You know, but it was what was best for those players at the time, you know.
That makes sense.
And Fricky went on to Butler, Will went on to Virginia, and Logan Bigler ended up being a kicker at UNI. So,
Oh, really?
yeah. But I mean, it's you know, it's hard to say when these kids have opportunities to move further afield at the end of the day.
So going back to Blake's question to wrap it up, would you change anything with youth soccer here in Iowa? I mean, is it a competition? Is it change the way to look at the competition? Is it ODP? Is it more coach education? Is it more mini pitches?
You teed that one up for him, Ben.
You know, I love the mini pitches. I think it's fantastic. I think the players need to do a lot more outside of the game. They don't do enough.
Outside of the you mean
train
the club.
the club environment.
Yep.
They need to do stuff on their own, which I don't think they do because they've got too many other things they can do.
A lot of distractions.
A lot of distractions.
Does part of that have anything to do with a lot of times they can't go train at their complex? So we used to go to Aliber whenever you wanted. Now, literally, Hidden Valley has gates where you literally can't get in.
Well, in Aliber, if you were out there training, you didn't have a reason to. They'd come kick you off now.
Yeah, and so when you say that, like I would agree, but where do kids go if they can't go to their? I'm talking the big clubs, right?
Yeah.
You can't,
like VSA.
Yeah, the complexes are closed.
Well, VSA, you can go down and train.
Okay.
Yeah. So
anytime you want.
During the season, okay. Right now it's closed, obviously, because of
because of COVID.
Yeah, and everything else. But you can go down and train on the field. There's no problem. The goals are up. I had training on a Friday night with the U11s. I'd arrived there and some of my girls were out there training. You know, just knocking a ball over 30, 40 yards, practicing their first touch. Nice. No problem. And I think what I love about it is that VSA coaching staff, they encourage that, you know. And there's a lot of parks in that area where they don't get kicked off. You know, like some of the middle schools and that, they can go out onto those fields and just, knock a ball around. I didn't realize that Aliber will kick you off. I know West Des Moines locked the gates. But I think anywhere where it's a public park, anybody can go play. It should be allowed to.
Agreed.
And maybe that's part of it too, is like kids these days, like they want to play on the turf or they want to play on like a nice field. They don't want to go play at whatever local park.
You guys are going to love this one. Okay, so is it Rexplex, right?
Yeah,
the new place.
Rexplex,
Yeah. So going back the background grand to my place out in West Des Moines. Yeah. So they've got all the turf fields. It was cold. It was actually one of those days we had a few flurries in that, and driving past. The management would love this. Driving past, there was 2 cars parked out there, 2 kids out there with bags of soccer balls, and they're just knocking balls into the goal. I loved it, actually.
That's great.
I thought it was fantastic. If it was a nice day, I would have stopped to just go and join them, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was brilliant. Now, since that time, they've put signs up there to keep off. But, I think at the end of the day, if somebody sees an opportunity, they're going to go on and play until somebody tells them to get off. And nobody was around anyway. Yep. And it's turf. So they're not really going to wreck the field.
That makes me just want to go out in spite.
Yeah,
Let's just go play.
That wouldn't surprise me, Mr. Sievers.
That's great, but that's awesome that the kids are going out.
Yeah.
Or you found a couple randoms. So.
I know in Norwalk, up at where Apex train, I'm trying to think of the complex.
Is it Mackinac?
Mackinac.
Yep.
People go up there and just play.
Yeah.
They have pickup games. Yeah. So,
that's true.
and I think Kralik has a lot to do with that as well, because the Norwalk high school kids, they just go out there and have pickup games, And then obviously you've got the Crawl brothers. They go up there and play because no one's going to tell them to.
They're basically the mayor.
They're the mayor. The mayor of Norwalk is the Crawl brothers.
I love it. They share it.
They share it. Yeah. So I just think that they shouldn't be kicking people off fields. They should let them play, and we just need more of that. Like you guys have got all these mini pitches up, which I think is awesome, which is an opportunity for people just to go on and play. You can't. There's a reason why they're there. They've got to be utilized.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
That's a good answer. Finding ways for kids to get out there and play on their own outside of the structured stuff. I like that.
Right. I mean, I don't know, when you look at more development opportunities, ODP, where does it really go now? It's just, what is it, an opportunity for...
To get in on the Olympic team.
Olympic team?
It's Olympic development program, correct?
How many players from Iowa have made the Olympic team from ODP?
0.
But back in the day. So, what is it, more a recruiting form for whoever's coaching that particular team to try and bring players to their club? Having the best players to play with each other, okay? But, at the end of the day, where do you go? Because Illinois don't care about ODP, Nebraska don't, Kansas don't, Missouri don't, which makes Iowa one of the better states when it comes to ODP. But, where does it go from there? You make a regional team, and then you've got to pay thousands of dollars to go somewhere. So you're actually paying to go. You've been selected, but you're paying to go. Okay, so why wouldn't it be? Why don't they go out and find sponsors that can pay for that? Big corporate companies, principal, get involved. Can you get these big companies involved? But if I'm gonna make a ODP regional team, all right, I want to be excited about it, and it's an opportunity. But hang on one sec, it's going to cost you $1,500. Okay,
on top of the $1,500 minimum you're already paying.
Yeah.
For your club.
So it's at the end of the day, money forked out. So, and plus you're playing at club, and I get parents ask me all the time, what do you think? I do give them my honest opinion. It costs you X amount of dollars for, I don't know, look up how many training sessions. I don't coach ODP anymore. I used to in Mississippi and here. I used to enjoy it back then because it was an opportunity. You'll go to ODP camp and you would compete against other states and try and win it. Whereas now I think they send their top players, is that correct, off to, if I can remember correctly, but I don't know. I think for the young age groups, the kids, it's fun, regionalized, bring them all together, 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s, but then, when you get to 05s or 4s, is it really...
I think there's big pools of young kids as well, which gets into the money thing. The more kids you take...
You take 60 kids, it's...
whatever the X amount of pop.
I was talking to an old regional coach that I used to... He was the regional coach, I remember, for Iowa back in the day. He's from Wisconsin, great guy. I happened to see him last year at a showcase in the summer. I just asked him, I'm like, are you still involved with ODP? And he's like, oh no, the region camp and stuff like that. And he just said, no, not anymore. He goes, it's not the same. The selection process is different. Instead of taking 30 kids in a pool, they'll take 80 kids because it's more money, So are you getting the quality players out of it? Maybe, maybe not, So I don't know. I just have my own opinion on it, and people can be mad at me for saying it, but I don't really care. So, yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Honest opinions, I like it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Siebes, what do you think?
I mean,
Aston Villa might win the league.
I say.
We didn't even get to talking about AIB or the Menace, so there you go.
I know.
This could be a 2-hour.
We might have to have a
talk sport.
Second part or something sometime.
Yeah, part 2. I like it.
I love it, and we could talk about different footballers as well,
There you go.
The legends that came out of Iowa. Yeah,
that's right. Well, we could have him come on and critique the legends.
Good.
We could have people come and critique me, which is fine. I can take it.
Sign me up.
I always get into trouble somewhere, so it doesn't matter to me.
Thanks for taking the time with us today, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it, guys.
Right on.
You guys are doing a good thing out there, especially with the mini pitches and that, and creating opportunities for underprivileged kids to play. So yeah, just keep up the good work, guys.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, bud.
Yep. All right, Siebes, that was fun. I enjoyed that quite a lot.
Yeah, the boy can tell a story, can't he?
Yeah, and he can tell one, and he loves to tell as well.
He does. You know, he's kind of one of, I don't think people can really debate him. He's one of the better coaches, I think, in Des Moines and Iowa on the field. The guy knows his stuff and has done it at the youth level and done it at the college level as well.
Yeah, I think he's pretty well respected by all on the field, and I think that's it speaks a lot about him and his soccer experience, and it was really interesting to hear kind of his story and all his his approach to everything.
Yeah, so I think to get him back in, because he definitely wouldn't be opposed, we may have to make sure he does his Zulu warrior dance for us, because that's a sight to be seen.
Yeah, so we'll start making a list for part 2 of the Justin Vorster podcast. Please feel free to slide into our DMs or hit us up on Instagram or any of those places.
So we got a brand new website.
That's true.
And then we can talk about that briefly, but then also, Ben, tell us where can they find us on our social media
social media
channels.
We're all set on this. So you can follow us on Instagram. We're at kick.it.forward, Facebook at KIF Soccer, and Twitter at KIF_soccer. We're getting closer to having them uniform, closer. But regardless, you should definitely check out our website because it's pretty sweet. We've been working with our good friends over at B-Flow Digital on all sorts of fun stuff. But it's www.kifsoccer.com. Pretty slick. There's all sorts of kind of info about what we're up to, and I don't know. I'm excited about it.
I am too.
Yeah.
We'll keep promoting it.
Yeah, right on. So I guess stay tuned. But in the meantime, hit us up if you've got any good quarantine guests for us or legends you'd like to hear on the pod. Hopefully you've been enjoying the consistency of our Friday morning drops. Although last week we got a special drop for Thanksgiving.
I was going to say it was special because corn-fed boys are special, but we can go Thanksgiving too, Ben.
Potato.
There you go.
Anyway, so thanks again to Justin for his time today, and thank you all for joining us.